Hey everyone, this is Humanity Chats with Marjy. Sorry, I'm losing my voice there. Today we have Laura Allen of the Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas with us. Hey Laura.
Hey Marjy, how are you?
I'm good. Would you mind, do you have two devices going?
No, I don't have anything going. I've got everything off. Can you not hear?
I can. It sounded like we had an echo, but I think we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, it's good. It's good to see you, Laura.
It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate so much you're having me as your guest during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and letting me share a little bit about childhood cancer. I am wowed by your show. I think the news that you shared about Mary Thomas and Appella Health is fabulous news for every woman. And I love that even more that she's their first woman CEO of the board, and she's Black. I think that is the coolest. Mary is a trailblazer in our community.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. I'm very excited about this good news, and I can't wait to see what she has in store for us.
I know. She does great things with everywhere she touches, everything she touches.
Well, Laura, you know why we have you here tonight. We know September is Children's Cancer Month, and we wanted you to shed some light on childhood cancer and your organization. But before we get to that, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Laura, and what is she interested in?
You're so kind. I was born and raised in the Northeast, and I moved to the South when I was in my early 20s. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for 25 years. I moved to Spartanburg 6 years ago, and now I am a road warrior across North and South Carolina, advocating and raising money and helping children battling cancer. I spent a lot of time in the early part of my career in high tech. I managed a European market for a software company, traveled abroad quite a bit. Went to work as an independent contractor for a manufacturing company. And then all along the way, I had spent time volunteering in the community sector, volunteer sector, and became spent, I guess, 20 years in for-profits, including working for a television network, Scripps Networks. And I then left and went to work for Vanderbilt Children's Hospital as their director of development. And at the time that I started, my daughter's good friend in 5th grade was diagnosed with cancer. That very first week I was there. I'm happy to say that she is a 26-year-old survivor of cancer today. And but it was really, it touched me in a way as I went through that with that mom, what her journey was like with her only child. I came to Spartanburg by accident with my husband, whose work brought us here, and I very happily fell in love with this little precious kitchen table charity that started off with for 14 years, 6 volunteers running this organization and taking care of the children of Spartanburg County that were battling cancer. It was originally founded as a project of the Optimist Club, Optimist International. And about the time that I got here was the time that they were looking to find a part-time executive director to help put some structure and form to the organization. And I got picked, and here I am, not part-time, not working only in Spartanburg, but by the end of this year, we will have 1,300 children in our program.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of children. Wow.
It is. Yes, it is. So when I came in 2014, there were approximately 100 families over the course of the 14 years that the organization had helped. And through the gift of philanthropy of a very generous donor who is not from North or South Carolina, we began a journey. And it was really because one of the fathers in our program came up to me and he said, "Laura, can you help my family be in New York for Christmas? You know, Rachel's up there and she has osteosarcoma and she's got tumors in her lungs and she's going to have surgery the week of Christmas. But my daughters and I haven't been there, and my wife has been by her side for 2.5 months. Could you help me out?" And the power of social media has transformed this organization and is helping these almost 1,300 children. And it was a Facebook post that I put out asking my friends if they could help me find a place in New York for this family for the 1 week of Christmas. And through somebody that I knew 35 years ago, I was connected to this beautiful man and his wife, and they offered us an apartment in the Columbus Circle area of New York. And another one of my people I knew sent a $500 gift to help with the transportation and food for this family. Our organization was tiny. It was, we were running on a $70,000 a year budget, getting children to MD Anderson, getting children to Sloan Kettering and places like that. We had helped this family have a second opinion. And then they were having the treatment at Sloan Kettering. So the fast forward is the family graciously accepted, and our precious Rachel came out of the hospital for 7 hours to be with her family. And I have pictures that they sent me that night. And it was very, very special. It's a memory that this man and his wife have given this family that they'll treasure. I'm sorry to say that we lost a Rachel in January of the next year, but that wasn't before I decided to go visit this man and his wife and thank them in person for the gift that they had given this family. At that time, he challenged me and he said, "What would you do if I gave you a much larger gift?" And I said, "Help more children, but I would need you to commit to this gift for several years so we could grow the organization and sustain the organization, because nobody wants to make a promise to a child that they can't fulfill." So Marjy, he thought about it. He asked for a proposal, sent to him a proposal, and he came back and he and his wife decided to provide a transformational gift. He gave me 3 conditions in that gift. And he said, "Don't become bureaucratic, keep it simple, and do the very best you can for these families." And then he suggested that maybe I should go full time. So my 16 hours a week became a full-time job, and we began to expand. We began to expand into Cherokee and Union County, South Carolina. Then we began to expand into the upstate of South Carolina, then all of South Carolina. We went into the Charlotte and Asheville area of North Carolina. And then just 2 years ago, next month, we will now be in all of North and all of South Carolina. So it's 2 full years that we're covering both states. And we've grown from, at the time that I joined, we had about 20 children that were in active treatment. And as of this end of this year, as of today, we're 1,185 with 35 referrals coming almost every single month from the 6 treatment centers in North Carolina and the 3 treatment centers in South Carolina.
Wow, that's unbelievable. You have grown leaps and bounds.
Well, we are trying to meet a need. When I began there, I had a study done by the Metropolitan Upstate Institute to explore and to give me some data so I could understand what is how many children are diagnosed a year? Where are they? How are the rural poor affected versus the urban children? I mean, what's going on in South Carolina? And we learned at that time that over 200 children a year are diagnosed with cancer in South Carolina. Now, Marjy, you and I know that right in Spartanburg, there's a fabulous cancer treatment center that we can go to. But for children, there's only 3 in the entire state. They have to go to Greenville, they have to go to Columbia, or they have to go to Charleston. And if that child is having a bone marrow transplant or is having an amputation, or they can only go to Charleston. And then, of course, if the child, they can certainly go to places like MD Anderson and Sloan Kettering and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. But think about the financial burden that puts on a family. Think about a family with a child being diagnosed with cancer, and suddenly a 2-income household has to become 1 because somebody has to care for that child. What happens to the siblings? Where do they go? Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors? I mean, suddenly they're just shuffled off. And I've talked with adults who are the survivors they're the sibling of a child who had cancer. And they just say, yeah, that's exactly what happened. We were sort of pushed off to the side. Mom and dad were not able to focus on us. So I had to go be with my grandparents for long extended periods. We focus on the entire family. We're looking, when a social worker at a hospital in North or South Carolina, one of these 3 centers, sends us a referral, the first thing we're doing within 24 hours is calling that family. We're setting up an appointment to now, with COVID, meet that family via FaceTime or over the phone, but so that we can understand those families' challenges and what's being impacted and what's changed in their lives and how did that diagnosis come to be. Supporting the social workers in the hospital systems. We're very fortunate that in North Carolina, there's a lot of social workers in the pediatric oncology area. In our South Carolina centers, there really aren't that many. They're dedicated people who work 8 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, be in touch with a social worker who's helping us to understand a family dynamic. And when we interview those families, Marjy, we learn things about them that we also share back with the social worker. I remember sitting in the hospital meeting a grandmother who was taking care of her grandchild because her daughter couldn't handle the diagnosis. And so grandmother was there with a 7-year-old. And she told me not only could her daughter not handle it, but she had a son who was schizophrenic. And then she had a son who was also incarcerated. And this grandmother, by sharing those things with me and my sharing that with the social worker, helped open up a different lens for the social worker to understand the family dynamics. I mean, I could go on, and I want to give you a chance to chat too. It's in the past 40 years, there has been a 24% increase in childhood cancer, and that's a source from the American Cancer Society.
Wow.
I mean, I don't want to, I want to give you an opportunity to ask me questions. I mean, I'll tell you that we have some great stories. We have some children that were in the Greenville area. They're from the upstate. There were about 7 children just about the time that our expansion began. And they were all diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which didn't have a cure. And there was a clinical trial happening at Sloan Kettering, and the social workers approached our organization and said, can you help these children? There's a clinical trial and it's their only hope. And so we said, okay, what's involved? And they said it could be as many as 15 to 20 trips back and forth to New York over the next 2 years for the immunotherapy. And we said, well, of course. And we didn't hesitate because we knew that those children's lives were at risk. And I want to tell you now, this I think began in the end of 2016, and now we're almost at the end of 2020. 6 of those 7 children have survived. 6 of those 7 children have no evidence of disease. And their mothers, I mean, one in particular called me from the clinic in Sloan Kettering, and she said, Laura, Peyton has no cancer. Peyton is cancer-free. You saved my child's life. And our organization is that committed to every child. And I have an amazing team of family advocates who know these children, know these families. It's incredible.
Well, Laura, thank you for sharing statistics with us. Can you tell us how your organization helps these families?
Sure. So if you can imagine a child that's diagnosed who lives in Cherokee County and might have to go to Cherokee County, South Carolina, and might have to go to Greenville or Charleston or even Levine Children's Hospital up in Charlotte, that's quite a drive. You could be looking at 3.5 to 4 hours to go to Charleston, back and forth. So what is the financial cost on the gas? Where do the siblings who are going with mom for that treatment, where are they going to get lunch? Well, they're going to probably go to Chick-fil-A in the hospital. How much is that going to cost? I learned very early on that when I was in one of the hospitals, that hospitals don't provide meals to the parents. And I found out from one of the social workers at the hospital that sometimes the parents eat off the child's plate because that is their meal. And so we're making sure that when a parent is sleeping in that room with that child, they're able to get breakfast, they're able to get lunch, and they're able to get dinner. When those children I spoke about that had neuroblastoma had to go to New York, we worked with them to the point of explaining how it is to go through TSA. What is it like when you arrive in New York and you have to get a taxi or an Uber? What is it like to arrive at a Ronald McDonald House? And we provided the airlines, the flights, we provided the taxi fairs. We provided the food resources so that they would be able to take care of their child and not jeopardize their life. I mean, it's a devastating financial burden. And really, one of the social workers said to me, I don't care how much you make, you never budget for cancer. She says, for every child to Children's Cancer Partners. So we have a spectrum of families in our program. We have children who are on Medicaid and are living in poverty. And we have one particular story I can share with you is about a mom in South Carolina who rode her bicycle around the area where she lives. And she has 4 children. She lives in subsidized housing, and she can't get a job because she can't take care of her children and have a job and take care of her one child with cancer. So she would take the transportation that's provided through Medicaid to the hospital and back when the child was with her. But if the child wasn't with her, Medicaid wouldn't bring her home. So she had to get another way home, and she lives 2 hours from the treatment center. And we understood that this was a burden and this was a barrier for her. And we figured out how many trips she was going to need to make this year, with taxis back and forth in this 2-hour trip because she didn't have a driver's license. And we then understood and came to learn why she didn't have a driver's license. And she had accumulated so many parking tickets that she had her license taken away, which was another barrier for her to be able to have a job and be able to get back and forth to her child's treatment. So we worked with another agency with the child's social worker. The other agency paid the tickets off. We helped her get her license reinstated, and then we got her a secondhand vehicle that she is now able to transport her child back and forth to the hospital, 2.5 hours each way. And once her child is in better health, she can also then get a job. So there's so many multiple layers of impact that I feel my team helps these families with. I have 2 staff that are licensed clinical social workers, and they really, really get into the heart and soul of what it is to care for these children and help them understand their new normals, their families' new normals.
Wow. So how do you get the funding to take care of these families?
We are funded 100% by individuals, corporations, foundations. We have a couple of fundraisers in the Spartanburg area that have been put on hold this year, which has been very challenging for us. And next year we have changed the dates to April 10th and 17th for Docs Who Rock and our burger cook-off. Yes, they're a week apart, but we're going to make it happen. But those are very important parts of our fundraising puzzle and model. But it's really about the generosity of individuals, people who want to help. And whether it's $100 or $1 million, every dollar helps. We're able to also put those dollars to use in the communities where those dollars are raised. We track all of our children by their location, by their county, cities. We know their schools. And we also have a wonderful program, and I want to just put a little plug out to your son, Adam, who has helped us with fundraising for a program called Kids in Lids. And it's a real civics lesson for children in how to help that child who's not at that desk next to them because they're home with cancer. And it's really very simple. And if people want to learn about it, they can go to our website, childrenscancerpartners.org, and go to the Kids in Lids. A child brings in $1 and wears a hat to school. Now, hats are not normally allowed in school, so the school works with our staff, and we create, a day or a week that they can wear a hat to school, and they bring $1 in. And Marjy, this was created by a little girl who at the time was 9 years old. She came to visit with me at the office and said, what can I do to help? I have, my friend who has cancer. And I said, well, here's a couple of ideas of things that I did when I was at Vanderbilt, but I think you should go talk to your principal. And that sweet girl, Paige, went to her principal at Campobello Grambling and brought him and said to him, what can we do? And I can't imagine 9 years old going to see my principal. I mean, that would have been scary. Anyway, they came up with this program called Kids in Lids, or they came up with the program. We named it Kids in Lids, and we are now trying to roll it out across North and South Carolina. And that's a wonderful way for $1 for every, for a child to help us. And J.M. Smith Foundation has been a tremendous partner with us there in helping us to get the word out and get that program started.
Wow, Laura, I have so many questions. I don't even know what to ask first. But let me go back to viewers. This is Humanity Chats. If you're just tuning in, we get together, we talk about issues that affect everyday humans. And today we're talking about childhood cancer with Laura Allen from Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas. She's telling us what her organization does with families that have been impacted by cancer. And also, she's given us some statistics of childhood cancer in the United States. Laura, I have another question for you regarding funding. Now,
Yes.
I know that when people support a cause, they want to know what their money is going toward.
Sure.
What is the percentage? How much of the money goes to the kids versus how much goes to overhead, so that people know what they're doing, or if people are interested in donating to your organization, they would feel comfortable doing so.
Sure. Well, number one, we are very transparent. So our 990 and our audit is on our website, because I think that it's important for donors to be educated and know what they're investing in. 85 cents of every dollar is used toward our programs. So between the difference, the 15%, that is our overhead and our fundraising costs. I'm very proud of that number, and I work very hard, and that's, we're very lean, so lean and mean organization. We have one office in Spartanburg where we work, but we also have some donated office space in Durham, North Carolina, where we have one employee. And people, sometimes when I'm working with funders or working with grantors, they ask me, well, why don't you have an office in our community? And I said, because we don't need to have an office there, and there's no need to have the overhead of another office, when in fact, our work is so much done at the hospital level. We're sitting with families in the hospital, in the cafeteria, in the waiting rooms. And again, with COVID, we've had to change our model, but what we haven't changed is our response. Within 24 hours of every referral, we're on the phone with that family and introducing them to us. And the social workers have come to rely so heavily on us. There are other great partners in communities, and I want to thank everyone else that's out there helping, because they make a difference, and we all share that burden. But we report back to the social workers every single month the activities that we've had with that family, the reimbursements and the funds that we provided to that family, so that the social workers because they're so involved with each family, they understand that we're supporting them and supporting that family. We've had a very unexpected financial burden this last year with the Ronald McDonald houses being closed due to COVID-19, and those children needing to come 1 to 2 days early before a procedure, so that they have to be COVID tested. And then if they're clear, they can go in for their procedure. Well, that has been an area where we've had to increase our lodging expenses. But as you asked earlier, what do we typically do? It's transportation, it's food, it's lodging, and then we won't let a family become evicted. We also, though, provide financial literacy, and we are working with a few banks to incorporate their financial literacy programming into ours, so that our families learn how to budget properly, how to adjust to their new normals.
Yeah, this is a tough time indeed, and I'm pretty sure that your budgeting needs have changed. And you were not able to have the fundraisers. You talked about a burger cook-off and dogs food walk. You were not able to have either of your fundraisers this year, right?
Right, we have not. We've had to postpone them. We had one planned for September and one for November. And we've just announced that we have new dates. We actually put it out on our Facebook page today. And we sent an email out to those donors and friends that we have emails for, that we have those dates now for April of 2021. And I hope and pray that we can do it then. But that has been a challenge for us. It also raises the awareness of the organization. And when we do our fundraiser, we keep our expenses under 25%. And that's something that, again, I'm very judicious about looking at the costs of doing events, the cost of everything we do, because I want to make sure that our donors' dollars get the best return on investment to these families and these children. And the most important thing is to make sure that these children have access to care. Marjy, one of the challenges one of the things I share with donors when we meet is that the rural poor are 3 times more likely not to survive, and Black children. And I have an NPR article from 2018 that has a study that was done out of Winston-Salem and speaks about the rural poor. And so we work very hard with those families to help them make those appointments, to make sure that the communities are educated. And the reason, I was asked earlier today, what is the reason for that? And sometimes it's because the child is diagnosed late. The parent didn't know what they were looking at. The distance to a treatment center can be a huge barrier when you don't have a car. I mean, just imagine that mother who only rode a bicycle until she had a car.
Well, have you considered maybe moving some of your fundraisers to a virtual location? I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like Dog to Rock. Have you considered doing it virtually and having people donate that way?
Well, I will tell you that you have just jumped the gun on something I wasn't going to announce, but I'm happy to share that we're finalizing details on a virtual dinner party that's going to be in November of this year, and we will be shipping out boxes. We're working with some, I'm not going to announce the who's, but we have some very special chefs. We're going to be doing some small bites, big music, great cause, and it's going to be a thankful event where people will be able to, maybe you invite one couple over if you're comfortable, and you can do 4 of you, but it'll be live streamed. It's going to be very extraordinary. And for those of you who want to learn more, just go to our website, and you can send us an email and let us know you're interested, and we'll make sure to send you the details. But thank you for your thinking about it. We are doing it. The challenge with making our Docs to Rock event that way is, if you think about the fact that those doctors would still have to be rehearsing in person, they can't be socially distanced. It's just not something that they or we think is the right thing to do at this time. So that event will happen, and we'll just look forward to it. And the same thing with the burgers. We've got 16 teams ready to compete for the Burger Cook-Off, and that'll be a lovely outdoor event. And we were working with the city of Spartanburg to make sure that we will meet every one of the criteria that is going to be for the safety of everybody. But stay tuned for the thankful event.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And viewers, I was listening to Laura. I had to turn to my other device to check on the messages that are appearing in the chat room, because I was, there are people who are very impressed with what the Children's Cancer Partners is doing. A person said, good job. Marco Newman is saying, keep up the good work, supporting kids with cancer and their families through a scary and difficult time in your life. And so you have people out there who are watching, who have been touched, and I hope that more people will share this so that people will learn about your organization. You were talking about Kids in Lit, a program that you were hoping to have in schools. Now, with COVID-19 and a lot of these kids going hybrid, virtual, going to school once a week, how do you intend to carry something like this out?
Well, it's a challenge, but I'll tell you what, some of the schools that participated last year have embraced it again this year, and we have quite a few schools scheduled for the month of September. We have quite a few schools who said, yes, we want to do this. We're going to do it later this year. So I feel like the word will continue to spread, and it's a really wonderful way. You know, you could do a virtual Kids and Lids. You know, these kids could virtually put a hat on, and they could have a big Zoom session with their school, and all bring $1 in the next time they come to school. We're happy to accept donations of any size, because to me, every dollar matters.
Well, viewers, you heard Laura, and you know, she's saying that with every dollar that comes in, 85 cents goes to the kids and 15% goes towards their overhead expense. So you do the math. They have a building, they have employees, and they've also got to do the work so that they can reach these kids. This is really a tough time, and with the stories that human interest stories that Laura has shared today, I mean, my heart is hurting for these kids out there. And I think I have some pictures of some of the things that you have done as an organization. I want to try and pull some pictures up of some of the things that you and the organization has been doing during. Is the picture up? Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes. You know, this is
this was virtual camp this summer. So this was the first year, and this is our 13th year of doing Camp Victory, and the first time we couldn't all be together. And so when we realized again that for the safety of our families, we could not go away for our weekend family camp, my staff and I said, okay, what can we do? And none of us have ever done camp programming. I have so much respect for camp directors and people who put these programs on for our children, but it's so important because we want our kids to be kids and experience things that every child experiences. And just because they have cancer, that shouldn't be a hurdle for them to experience things that other children have. So we created Camp in a Box, and we put together activities, and we put together videos. We all did videos of the activities. And then we had the families, we did programming so that there was some Zoom sessions, and then there was some family sessions. There's a picture of us delivering one of the boxes for our Go for the Gold theme. And we shipped them out all across the Carolinas. And then we had a weekend of Zoom sessions, which opened with the kids having a campfire sort of songs with one of our Dogs Who Rock singer and board member. And then the kids had miniature what do you call it? You know, marshmallows and graham crackers, s'mores. They had miniature s'more kits with Sterno, and they learned how to make s'mores while we were doing the campfire songs. It was just like being there. And we had competitions the next day, Go for the Gold, but each family had to create their own family flag and they had to identify their mascot. And as you can see, they had aprons. We had a cooking session with one of our staff. It was called Cooking with Carla. And she taught the families a low budget, delicious way to make pizza. They made it during lunch. They came back on after lunch. We had the Optimist International, the group that originally founded us. Nationwide, we had 7 people and 2 in Canada put together escape rooms for our families, and they got to solve puzzles in the escape rooms and compete for prizes. It was an amazing weekend.
Wow. It's you know, you guys have been creative during these times.
We have definitely stepped outside our comfort zones in a way that I never imagined, but I can't tell you the surveys that we got back from our families were so positive, and I was so proud of the staff team and for bringing me along and doing something that was just way out of our comfort zone.
Well, you know, you have to stay with the mission and make sure you're impacting the kids. And so for you to be able to reach the families, you're doing God's work. Now, another question that I have, and viewers, if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat room so that Laura would be able to answer those for us. But another question that I have, how do these families find you?
Okay, that's an easy answer. Number one, when a child is diagnosed with cancer in one of these hospitals I spoke of, the 3 in South Carolina or the 6 centers in 6 areas in North Carolina, there is a social worker assigned to them. And that's just in pediatric oncology. That social worker shares with the family our organization. They let them know what we do. They let them know that we're here and how we can help. And the family signs a release, and they then send that referral to us. And then we, within 24 hours of meeting that of that referral, we connect with the family and set up a time and schedule our own intake so that we can build our own relationship with that family. Now, Marjy, you know, if anybody in your viewing audience or whoever they share with learns about a child or knows of a child that's in North or South Carolina that needs our assistance, there is a place right on the homepage on the top right. They can send us an email to connect directly with us. And then we do the back work. We do the work to get them connect. We go back to the social worker and we get the referral. So there's no child in North or South Carolina that has cancer that should not be connected to our organization. That's probably why we have almost 1,300 kids today.
So, yeah, so you guys don't do anything medical. Your role is a support role.
Well, the fortunate thing is that children either have private insurance or they have Medicaid, and that is wonderful. And then some of the children who have private insurance have something called TEFRA, which is, and my social work and family advocate team knows how to help those families apply for some of those resources that are available to them. We also look at other organizations. If we know that somebody does a $25 gas card, well, then we want to start with $1.26. We want to make sure that those other resources are used as well. So we just want to, we just make sure that we connect those families and understand their needs. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You did. And, you know, are you able to offer like a support group for the families? Do you get them connected to other families that are going through the same issues?
You know, Marjy, that's a great question. And that's something that the Camp Victory has really done for the families. One of the lots of families wrote back and they said it was so nice to see our fellow families that are going through what we go through, because when you have a child that's diagnosed with cancer, your friends come to your side. They want to help. But they don't necessarily know what to do. And when you meet another mother or another father or a guardian or a grandparent who's taking care of a child with cancer, and you have one as well, there's an instant bond and there's a connection that happens. And so we work very hard to try to connect the families. We do something called Family Night. And of course, we haven't been able to do it quite the same way these last few months, but we bring the families together and we usually have a social worker present and we do a group family activity. Again, we're working very hard to keep families whole and together. There's over 50% divorce rate of families of children with cancer. And so, and there's just a lot of complications in families of children with cancer. And you know, these kids are wearing masks all the time, and we're just beginning to learn what that really means and what that's like. But these children they're isolated in their homes, and their mothers, their fathers, whoever the caretaker is, they're also isolated because they can't have other children come in or sometimes other family members even around, because it puts that child at risk. But so yes, we work hard to try to pull families together and try to connect them with each other. We at Christmas time do a Christmas spectacular. We do one in Raleigh and one in Spartanburg. We support the families, whether they're coming from Bluffton, South Carolina, or the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We will provide them an overnight room if they're driving a certain distance. We'll provide them some breakfast the next morning so that they can come and partake in our activities, because we can't be in every community. But that's another wonderful place. We had 500 children and parents and families together in Raleigh last year for Christmas, and we had this over 600 in Spartanburg. Well, we're not going to be able to do that this year. So we actually brainstormed yesterday on how we're going to make Christmas special for these families. And we're continuing to figure out how we can do some programming where they'll be able to be connected and see each other through Zoom. Zoom has been an amazing solution to communications with our families this year. So, I think your statistics that you're running on your scroll is fantastic. And I thank you for sharing those. I want you to know that 1 in 5 children do not survive childhood cancer, and that the life expectancy of a child with cancer is lost. 71 years is lost as a child versus for us as adults, 15 years. So we have to make sure that wherever these clinical trials are happening, that we can get those children there. And sometimes the clinical trial that's happening will help with the expenses to a family, but you can't let them know that on the front end. So we get them there, and then if they enroll in the program, sometimes our expenses are reduced because the clinical trial has resources available. But we never want a parent to say they couldn't help their child because they couldn't afford to get to a city where there was a chance. If a child has to have proton therapy, the place that most go to is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia or in Jacksonville, Florida. There is not proton therapy in South Carolina for children with cancer. And so they have to go elsewhere. And we have about 6 children that are being treated with that particular therapy. And we have multiple months of housing that we're paying for those families. We have some families that are being treated at St. Jude, and the entire family is together at St. Jude, and CCP is paying for that family's housing because many of the hospital systems and pediatric oncology centers will pay for the child, or St. Jude, for instance, will pay for the child and a parent, and that's not medically necessary for another parent to be there. But in the case of a child who might be living for 5 more months, if that treatment doesn't work, the best answer of that family is to be whole. And so we do help make sure a father can get to be with his child. We have a child who's being treated there as well, who was his father was the bone marrow transplant donor, and the parents were separated, but the mother was the one who was bringing the child back and forth. The social worker at St. Jude said, this child will do so much better if the father is here. We see an improvement in the child. So we make sure that father can be there so that that child has every chance to fight for his life.
Wow. Now, are there any federal dollars available for your organization? Are you able to apply for federal funding?
We have no federal funding. I have yet to find a federal funding grant. I will say that we were very fortunate to get some PPP funding, and we will be doing our work. We were able to get the funding to help us the first very beginning, and that has been a tremendous help to us. So that's the only federal dollars we've ever received from the SBA. But other than that, we do not have federal funding or state funding.
Wow. I bet a lot of people out there just go about their normal lives and don't realize that they don't realize all that is going on in other people's world.
Sure.
This past Friday, we lost a superhero, a great superhero, Chadwick Boseman, and he lost his battle with cancer, but he was a real superhero and was touching the lives of kids that had been impacted by the cancer. And my hope is that, as everybody is talking about Chadwick and the great things and the great legacy that he left, they would also see the heart that he had for these children, and invest in our children, because really they are our future.
They are our future. They are our future. I mentor a little girl who's going into 7th grade, and she's actually just started. And I saw how devastated she was by his passing and how much of an impact he had on the youth in our country. And it was so sad. I was listening to him speak and realized that when he did a presentation a couple of years ago, he actually had the cancer at the time. It wasn't known. And it's so tragic. So many lives are lost. And when I look at these children, who sit still for so long to go through MRIs and to go through getting masks made, and they go through treatments. And I do see these beautiful smiling faces, and I do see these children who have so much. And I think about how much they put up with, and they do, and the poking and the prodding and just the challenges. I think there's nothing, I can keep fighting for them, and we all can keep fighting for them. We all have to help make sure that we have two things. We get those children there, which is what Children's Cancer Partners does, and that there's the research dollars available. Only 4% of the dollars that are allocated in this by our government for cancer research goes to pediatrics. It's really sad. And so that's why these centers of excellence like MD Anderson or CHOP or Sloan Kettering have the ability to do those researches. And that's why we have to get those children there.
Yeah, yeah. Now you have some viewers, Akua said wonderful, and you have a long message from Andrew Lee. I don't know if I'm going to be able to display this. I guess it's very important. Andrew Lee says, Children's Cancer Partners have been a blessing to our family. They help with gas to appointments and lunch on appointment days. They also help with bills around Christmas. They provide events for our families to go to. It's a blessing to look at my little MS smile on her face, watching the play or sporting event. Yeah, this is a testimonial to the good work that you all have been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Marjy, it's so lovely when an organization like Spartanburg Ballet or Little Theater or the Philharmonic or different groups offer us tickets to Greenville Theater, because then we can bring our children, or to the forgetting the name of the hockey team in Greenville. When they do those things and we can bring our children, there's a group out of Columbia that has brought our kids down, and they get to see these fighter planes, and they get to see, big police trucks and fire trucks. I mean, these kids glow. They are so excited, and they get to be together. And we're looking forward to that day when it will come again, that we can all be together. Thank you, Lee family. We love you. We love all 1,300 of our families. Y'all are amazing. You inspire me every day.
Wow. Viewers, this is so touching. If you're watching this, I'm going to put the website back up. Children's Cancer Partners, this is their website. Click on it, go read more about them, look at the options that they have available. If you have any extra change that you could donate at this crucial time, please do help them out. We all know how COVID-19 has impacted families and has changed dynamics all around the world. Laura, with COVID-19 and some hospitals choosing not to do elective procedures and having some hospitals almost at capacity, can you share how that has impacted some of our children?
Sure. Well, I can say that the fear and the trepidation and the unknown about COVID for children who are already immunosuppressed caused some children to not get to their appointments. Maybe the clinic was not seen if it wasn't an emergency, they weren't being seen, and the stress that it put on our families was tremendous. I always keep about 20 families myself because I never want to lose touch. And one of my families told me that her appointment in Philadelphia was canceled, and her child has retinoblastoma, and she wanted to make sure, that nothing had happened. It was supposed to be a 6-month checkup, and then she wanted to go to the clinic near where they live, and she couldn't go because she didn't have anyone to care for her other 2 children. So the stress around it, COVID-19, has done so much to our families. I mean, things are beginning to open up a little bit, but even our social workers, many of them are working remotely as well. I had a family, I was so sad, turned away from the hospital because the young mother who had her child with her also had her infant with her, and she didn't know she couldn't bring her infant to the hospital. So she had to wait and go back home 4 hours, reschedule. We have to help get some childcare. So we'll help fund for that childcare because we want to make sure that child can get their treatment. And so whatever it takes in each of these cases, we're working with these families to make sure that their needs are being met. COVID has been devastating. I mean, we're not meeting our families face to face. Sometimes a child's diagnosis is being told to a parent who's sitting in the hospital and the other parent has to be Zooming in. Imagine not being with your partner, your husband or your wife, the child's father and mother being together to hear such a crushing diagnosis.
Well,
so vaccine can't come soon enough. And then we all have to get the vaccine and we all have to get healthy and stay healthy. And it's a challenge right now. It's really a challenge.
Well, Andrew wants you to know that they love you, and he thanks you for blessing all of the families.
I hope, Andrew, I hope we see you. I think, we just sent out the notice. We're going to do we're doing a fishing rodeo. We're doing a few activities that are outdoors. And so in middle of September, we're doing a fishing rodeo out at Optimist Acres in Pauline, and we will provide the resources for family to get there. But because the pond is large enough, we're able to socially distance across the pond, and the Middle Tiger College students are helping us with teaching the children how to fish. So you don't have to know how to fish. You don't have to bring a rod. We'll provide the worms, the rods, some water, and a good old time. And I hope we see you guys there again.
So yes. Andrew, I bet Andrew heard it, and he will spread the word as well. Now, Laura, this is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Do you have any other special activities planned for this month or any fundraising efforts?
Well, we're just making people aware of it. We are posting on our social media, on our Facebook and on our Instagram pages. We welcome, donations of any size, especially this month. If you have a child who's in school, encourage the school or give us a contact name so we can bring kids and Liz to that school and have a lot of children get involved. And please just go out and explore our website and look at some of the stories of our children, of our fighters, of our survivors, of our superheroes. They're amazing. But we're so glad for you to be aware of this, to know that childhood cancer is the #1 disease killer of children.
Well, thank you for sharing this, Laura. What I'd like to do is I'd like for you to give a message to your donors, to the viewers. I'm going to take myself off the screen. Just pour your heart out and send a message, and I'll bring myself back to the screen when you're done.
Thank you. Thank you to all donors, whether you are with a foundation, a corporation, or you're an individual, whether you have sent $5, $5,000, $50,000, or $1 million to our organization. Thank you so much for making a difference. We are hand in hand with these families and these children every day on the front line with them. They're the ones going through the cancer, and your generosity and your gifts allow us to be the middleman, the people who help make sure that their needs are being met, that we can get the Paytons to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and we can get the other children where they need to go to get the best possible treatment. We couldn't do it without you. We wouldn't be here without you. A special thanks to the Optimist Club, Childhood Cancer Optimist Club, for the work you do around all of South Carolina, advocating and helping us with our families where we don't have staff. Thank you to the Optimists for founding us 19 years ago. I hope that one day childhood cancer will be cured and we won't need to be here. Until that day, we really need your support. So please consider a gift to Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas. Thank you.
Wow, that was powerful. We don't just hope that one day childhood cancer will be cured. We just want cancer cured, period.
True that. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
We've all been touched by cancer. We've all been touched with family members. There's probably not one person viewing who hasn't been touched by cancer. And I just want you to consider for a moment, when I lost my mother who was 82. My mother had 82 years of life. We've lost 43 children this year through our program whose lives have been robbed because of this scourge of cancer. So we want to make sure that we can do the very best to give every one of these children a fighting chance. Thank you so much, Marjy, for allowing me to be here with you today and sharing Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas.
Well, you're welcome, Laura. We needed to hear this story. This is what the program is about. Humanity chats. We're humans. And so we get to talk about issues that are impacting all humans around the world. And I am so grateful that I have had the opportunity to learn from you today. You wanted to say something?
I was just going to say, I met you 5 years ago, and I'll be very quick because I know you're toward the end of your programming, but you brought books to my organization, and those books, because you're so into literacy, and I so appreciate that as a part of everything you do in our communities. But that first Christmas and second Christmas, I had enough books to give to the children, and they loved picking a book. So I want to thank you for the 5 years that I've known you, for your support of your son, who's helped us with our organization, with soccer and with Kids and Lids. Thank you for spreading the word about our organization, about Children's Cancer Partners. Thank you for all you do for so many.
Well, together, let's do God's work, and as Laura said, I'm big into literacy. September is actually National Literacy Month, and we're doing book giveaways. My organization is Giving Book Day, so visit givingbookday.org to learn about us. I have several book giveaways with the partnership of Club City Bookshop, all these publishing houses, Barnes and Noble. They donate books, and we end up giving the books to people who need it the most. So follow us. We're on social media as well, and we do work with classrooms. We do work with adults who would like to read. I'm a big reader. I'm an author. I write, I read. I try to escape my reality sometimes by reading. So check us out. Send us an email. We could partner, or we could get the donors to partner with you. Viewers, this has been an eye-opening conversation with Laura. I would ask you to please share this conversation with your network. And maybe part of your network would think that it's a long conversation. You could just pick a snippet. That's why we have Laura do her pitch. You can show them just that part. There's a YouTube link to this. You can share the YouTube link with them and tell them, hey, go to 59th minute to hear that summary. If you don't have the time to watch everything, because I think this is really important information out there that we need to know. Sometimes we live in our little bubble and we don't realize what is going on in the rest of the world, and we get so comfortable with our environment. Let's not be comfortable. Let's learn. Let's broaden our lens. Let's learn what's going on. People are hurting. There are people out there also having fun. It's good to know the good and the bad, the happy and the sad. And together we make a better world. Thank you so much, YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for tuning in, for watching us, listening to us for this whole hour. To take an hour of your time on Thursday evenings, I don't take it for granted. I'm really grateful, thankful to you that you keep us going. Humanity Chat will be back again next week, and we're going to be talking about the census. We have Catherine Catherine Harvey will be joining us to be telling. She'll be telling us about the importance of the census, how it impacts our everyday life, and she would give us some tips on what we can do. And so tune in next week with our conversation with Catherine. But before I leave, on Sundays, Adam Apia has a kids show called Kids Changing the World. And this Sunday show, which is going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern, is pretty special. He has a girl, a young girl from Maryland. Her name is Grace Colwood. She has a nonprofit called We Can Serve. And Grace is a cancer survivor. And so tune in to watch Grace, hear her story. She has received several awards all over the country. She has received international awards. She works really hard. And that is, that is a story that will touch your heart. This little girl has actually lived it and has gone through treatments. And so, tune in 3 p.m. Eastern. If you're not too busy on Sunday, tune into Marjy TV, YouTube, or Facebook and watch Adam and Grace with Koshi, your digital assistant behind the scenes. Thank you guys so much for watching, for tuning in. Laura and I really appreciate you. Don't forget to visit the Children's Cancer Partners website to learn more about them. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And once again, thank you for watching us. Have a good night.